Hello, there are social security scams and wire crime acts and methods that interbranch have also with the intelligence tied to them. And the World Trade Center with a whole bunch of other countries at next to campuses. And they're directed to hide things like that, and they use those directions ahead of time and shown needs to cover up how they use it. And they confess it where they're not supposed to, and they use the directions to hide that to where they're not supposed to. They're also making confessions. A whole bunch of people involved with proven child abusers, leaders of kids first forced, are also recorded involved with all kinds of social security scams. Like dozens of people involved with more scams than there are streets in our towns and houses on them. Not by accident. And their tactically delusions are out. They're putting whole fake transcripts at Harvard Hospital as the rolls leaking, rolls with Russians, Ukraine, Korea, Italy, in other words, all these nations in the news, they have collusions here and there, right through world wars with psychiatry, tactically delusions are out too. In other words, so Elizabeth Warren is just a talking head, and she's reading other people's fake things in databases. In other words, and the people speaking about crimes in prisons, those prisons in the state corrections offices and judicial branch offices of Connecticut has roles all kinds of with the natures of organized crime acts and methods, and with news, identity theft, fraud, slanders. We have to learn the phrase predicate act. I'm not even a lawyer. All sides of criminal civil cases, lawyers, the sources, and the courts, their family members, different natures of conjunctions, the police forms, mayors, their family members. Same time, putting sequence shifts, their own delusions. Black pupils. We have black pupils, whites of eyes, to discern the delusions of the people speaking for the law. And for our founders, they have other communicated for America's founders than they declassified to have communicated for themselves. They didn't even have free speech. They had to pretend other to an extent or be sensed. They had to be an extent of collusion against themselves and against everyone else, or be sensed through everyone else. That was the value. We never addressed the private criminal enterprises, juxtaposed with the overt criminal enterprises and the terrorists, and the method by that. We had the three branches of government too, per what witch trials are about, right next to Webb House at Weathersfield, Connecticut. Now renamed the Webb Stevens Museum. Still then and now they have other communicated for our founders and for the founding locations than they communicated for us to have communicated about that. They declassified it. No one had free speech. They declassified how and why. In other words, Massachusetts still has criminally foreign tactically delusions raw takes on American history, and they have six sciences, and they have predicate acts with facts methods by this, because this breaching method was correct to know that they would be communicating for nature and for our founders as styles pretending other and getting away with it, self-valuing. Their educators haven't been used remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, while pretending not to realize. And while not realizing, being tactically delusional, in other words, for the delusions wrought part too. And the tactically misinformed at campuses A through Z, sickly distinctly too, to keep also self-valued, roles self-valued with how sickly non-distinctly, and the difference between campuses A through Z were estimated, where our appreciations of difference are measured and maintained, leaving out the breaching methods uses of us, appreciating of and as systems with differences, tactical ulterior, from how nature shows us that its body is generating all group differences. It shows us that we are a human species, individual species body of individual bodies with all group differences generated by that which is also generating totally distinct species bodies of individual bodies. In other words, there's only one, and it's the same identity of body progression that has us capable of seeing, of discerning. Three parts of time, the part past, the part like this, the identity of the seasons that are not even here yet, even if they never get here. To an extent, we can discern the body of their identity. And it's a complete identity relation to itself, and the only increasing value of that. In other words, so all kinds of medical scams with mental health triages, all kinds of medicines crimes with them, all kinds of databases, criminally foreign influence, I'm putting fake transcripts, fake conversations with people about crime scenes as collusion slash S with a whole bunch of different countries, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and the family members of campuses, like fire campuses, running into high lab regressions to be all sides of issues being described, where they're also just faking and changing things that were at campuses filmed 24/7, just putting fake transcripts, fake ties in natures, ties to be people. Weathersfield police fake conversations with me as a kid and me being there as a kid and then as an adult too. And they covered this up by pretending such through the news too. At the same time, they fake conversations with me about the World Trade Center attack. A lot of people involved with Harvard Hospital's Institute of Living and their security and their lawyers have collusion slash S with businesses and houses next to that place, to also with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and terrorists. These are people also with sequenceship from inside the Ninth Circuit Court, next to the World Trade Center towers right before the attack, and with the Scalora family is one of the spots next to it. But names on inside the court changed the date to make it look like it was appeared. It was handed in late to the panel of judges that day, which was later proven anyway. But from inside the court was formally shipped the court's collusions with that. And all sides of that case and their sources were increasingly involved in predicate acts against me. But it's also for others attaching everyone to fake to change communications with the people doing it and with others with themselves. All natures of investigators are being haven't been used remotely, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. So they have they have a whole bunch of predicate acts methods involved with people on up to state corrections offices and judicial branch offices. Increasingly with those methods as their collusions are next to campuses and next to communications locations and exceptions like news and exceptions to it. Connecticut's WFSB News, again, fake conversations with me. It's also intelligence next to them, intelligence next to Fox Connecticut News, too, which is a whole bunch of people tied to proven child abusers, leaders of kids, firstborns. Then they want to have them be respected for their identities as their roles with the law. They're putting identity theft, fraud, slanders roles against people they don't even know since they were kids. Trying to make fake exceptions too consciously. Also, Jew-themed Jewish people calling out attacks on themselves with people that are also not Jewish, but they're helping them. Like with a former Mayor Gold, that's one of the, and a Riley family is increasingly involved with sexual and medical offenders from other areas, involved with the interbranch and foreign, who also have been planting evidence all sides of my house, fake ties, fake nature ties to me, as ones involved with the fake conversations with me with the interbranch and the news at the same time. They have Social Security people involved with predicate acts with the principal upskirt nature's his Facebook page of that campus, Highcrest School. I went to that school. There's a bunch of people with other countries involved with drugs and medicines, all kinds of medicines rackets and natures of organized crimes. Also with their tactically delusions raw too, while criminally foreign influence readings of American history and principles. That's one of the reasons why and how Black people's whites of eyes is left out, even though our founders declassified about why and how a breaching method had roles, forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded, with reassigning what nature communicates with Black people's whites of eyes, when nature is not only nature as criminal insidiousness, nature. But so we have had other communicated for our founders. There are self-valued roles with uses of our founders' words, leaving out what they declassified about it, and leaving out and replacing what we could observe was recorded three ways manifest as a torture, extortion, slavery method, and or as an identity theft, fraud, slander method. In other words, as a torture, extortion, slavery method, and or as an identity theft, fraud, slander method. Because this is identity difference racketeering method, worse than war crimes. Black pupils. I am not even a lawyer. Former standing chairperson on the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act in Massachusetts State Police, one's associated, and intelligence agencies associated with a Mike Roberts, who is also reportedly a tow truck driver. He's one of the ones involved with houses on my street, involved with interbranch informant with the World Trade Center attack, with their extended family members interstates and internationally, and with Wethersfield police increasingly forcing Saudis to collusions with them, interstates, and with other police departments. So in other words, these are people talking nonsense. They owe a lot of money to Social Security, and they're talking the delusions wrong. Get them on paper, follow mandated law for your branches of government. They're sick. I'll show you how to heal their minds and souls.